This is M-rated. It runs for 2 hours and 27 minutes. It's a black comedy focusing on beauty, on influences, ostentatiousness, excess. It's about pretension, it's about power, and it unfolds in 3 parts. And it's written and directed by a Swedish auteur in Ruben Östlund. We're initially introduced to a model called Carl, played by Harris Dickinson, and an influencer called Yaya. A very sad story there, played by an actor called Charles B. Dean. And, look, I may as well mention it now. Unfortunately, after making this movie, and this was sort of her breakthrough hit, if you like, Charles B. Dean died. So, I found that just staggering. Very, very sad. She was raised in South Africa, South African born, and it was quite tragic. She died after contracting a viral infection, having had her spleen removed following a car accident in the year 2008, apparently, and that made her more vulnerable to the risk of serious infection. So that's what I read about her. But look, this couple, the model Carl and the influencer Yaya, Carl calls out Yaya for always expecting him to pay for her meal when dining out, although making out beforehand that she'll even up the score. So basically she'll say, no, it's all right, I'll pay for it this time. That's what she says she'll do, but she never does it. But as Yaya reveals, there's more to it than that. And that's part one, if you like. And we then move to a luxury yacht where Carl and Yaya have been invited to join a select group of affluent guests without paying for it. Obviously, as I say, influencer and so on. And they include a larger-than-life Russian fertilizer magnate, Dmitry is his name, played by Zlatko Buric, and a Swedish tech billionaire, Jarmo Henrik Dawson, who has been stood up. There's going to be a lady involved, but he's made it clear that it's not going to happen. And then there's this distinguished elderly British couple called Clementine and Winston, played by Amanda Walker and Oliver Ford Davies. They surprise Carl and Yaya, and I've got to say us, the audience, with how they've actually made their money. And among others, there's a stroke victim called Therese, played by Iris Bourbon, who's lost the power of speech, apart from repeating the German phrase in den Wolken, which translates to in the clouds. And those directly servicing the passengers are given a rev up by the vessel's steward, played by Hannah Oldenburg, to ensure they maximise their chances of receiving big tips. And at the same time, this steward is struggling to get the captain, played by Woody Harrelson, to attend to his duties, and he's locked himself into his cabin. And he's on a bit of a drinking binge, shall we say. Things quickly go from bad to worse when they're confronted by a fierce storm and more, shall we say. And finally, the third part, several of the passengers, including Carl and Yaya and members of the crew, find themselves on an island without supplies. And unexpectedly, the person that they call the toilet manager, Abigail, played by Dolly de Leon, arrives with limited provisions and takes on a rather a new role. So this film, The Triangle of Sadness, it's a hoot. You never know where it's heading, what's going to happen next. And the title, I've got to say, I hadn't heard. Had any of you heard of the term Triangle of Sadness before this movie? Anybody? No. Okay. Well, apparently it's a term used in the beauty industry, and it refers to the wrinkle between the eyebrows. Yeah. Right? There we go. There's a reference to it early on in the movie, is there not? Peter, are you going to be a male model in the second half of your life?
A moral model?
A male model. No, I was thinking of a way to introduce you, and I was just thinking, you and Carl, the two of you, my friend.
I don't know how to answer that, but what I can say, this is an absolutely brilliant film because it is full of political and social commentary. In fact, a subtitle for the film might be "Eat the Rich with Redemption." But Ruben Östlund has really made a superb film, and he made Force Majeure and The Square, which won Palme d'Or, and so did Triangle of Sadness. And what he does is he takes human and political and social situations and takes them to an illogical extreme, but a very clever sort of extreme. And what impressed me so much about this film is that it is full of commentary. If you listen carefully to the dialogue, if you watch what happens to each of the characters, and especially as it's shot in 3 parts, partly it was affected by lockdown, so it was delayed to some extent, but it was shot in 3 chapters or 3 parts, and it's the 3rd chapter that is the most telling of all. And I found that particularly exciting. This is a superb film. It is one to savour, because if you're looking for something different, unusual, but has a lot to say about the human condition, then I think you'll find Triangle of Sadness is a real winner. And it just won the European Film Award for Best Film as well. Yeah, great film.
Scenes and situations that are deliberately exaggerated, they're played upon. It is commentary about the haves and have-nots in society, the beautiful people and the downtrodden. And it's actually the 3rd part, Dave, of a loosely connected trilogy exploring masculinity from Ruben Östlund. So, he's a decidedly different kind of filmmaker again, isn't he?
He is, and I absolutely love this film. I thought this film was... I know it sounds weird with them both coming out on the same day, but this was one of my favourite films of this year. I sat there, and what I liked about the film was you never knew what was going to happen next. I was lucky enough to have seen this film before trailers got out there or anything like that, so I was able to sit down and not know what was going on next. Woody Harrelson, I thought, was absolutely brilliant in this film. That brilliant scene with... him and the Russian businessman sitting down, getting drunk and talking is just absolutely amazing. There is one scene in there I should warn people about. If you've
the one that goes on for about 50, the one that goes on for 15 minutes, you mean?
Yeah, if you've got a little bit of a weak stomach, you may be a little bit sickened by what happens when the storm hits the boat. But for me, I was in stitches laughing. It was one of the funniest scenes I think I've seen all year in cinema. And that's what I love about Ruben's films, is that you never know what's going to happen next, whether it's going to be a deeply tragic moment, an action-packed moment, or something that will make you laugh until you cry. And you get all of that with this film.
Jackie, have you seen the shorts at least, or the trailer for this, or not?
No, luckily I'm avoiding them and listening to Dave there. Thank you.
Excellent.
I'm out to see it tomorrow.
Yeah, well, several of the performances stand out, and Dave's already mentioned Woody Harrelson. He looks totally comfortable as an alcoholic Marxist who prefers a burger and fries to fancy food. I mean, really, he just seems so at home here. And that's not to sort of condemn Harrelson in any way. It just it's quite a noteworthy performance. And I just thought the other one, Dave Burich, he's unmissable as this unkempt Russian capitalist, always out for a good time. I mean, really extraordinary. And isn't De Leon a bit of a surprise packet as someone readily able to take advantage of the situation in which her character finds herself? So that again was delightful. And then the straight-laced delivery of Amanda Walker and Oliver Ford Davies in disarming Carl and Yaya. Peter, wasn't that a beaut scene, eh?
It's just one of many fantastic scenes. It's just a great film.
Yeah, and then there's a dynamic between Carl and Yaya, so wonderfully captured by Dickinson and an influencer, sort of Dean, as it were, who bounce so well off each other. So, yeah, I mean, it really is tragic, unfortunately, that we lost one of the stars of this at a very young age. I think she was in her 32, something of that nature. But, look, like its predecessor, as you rightly say, Peter, the Square won the Palme d'Or, so did this one, with very good reason. It's quite bizarre. It's an unpredictable film that does push boundaries. It does not set a fast pace. It's not going to suit all tastes again, Jackie, but it certainly wins my plaudits for originality and for execution. Score out of 10, Dave Griffiths, please.
Yeah, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. I really, really loved it.
Mm-hmm. And Peter Krause.
It's great to see a film that at the end of it, audiences will be discussing for quite a long time. And that makes a great film. 10 out of 10 from me.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay, that is a big one. There's no question about that. So, okay, we've already started with two pretty special films for this Boxing Day special on JAIR 88 FM.
What was your score, Alex?
Sorry, good question. 8 out of 10 for me as well. Now,